The afternoon sun filtered through the kitchen blinds, casting golden stripes across the marble countertop where Maya stood, her hands trembling as she scrolled through her phone. She didn't hear her son enter. "Mom, I need to talk to you." Ethan's voice cut through the silence. Steady but strained, Maya's head snapped up, her eyes widening as she saw her 17-year-old son standing in the doorway. His jaw set in a way that reminded her painfully of his father. She quickly locked her phone and set it face down on the counter. "What is it, honey?" "I'm kind of busy right now," she said, forcing lightness into her voice. "I know about Derek," Ethan said flatly. The world seemed to tilt. Maya gripped the counter's edge, her knuckles whitening. "What are you talking about?" "I saw you." "Last Tuesday?" "I left school early because I wasn't feeling well, and I saw his car in the driveway." "I saw him leaving." Ethan's voice cracked slightly, but he pushed forward. "And then I checked your messages when you left your phone on the couch last night." "I know, Mom. I know everything." Maya's shock morphed into something darker. Her face flushed red, and her eyes narrowed. "You went through my phone? How dare you invade my privacy like that?" "Your privacy?" Ethan's voice rose in disbelief. "What about Dad's trust? What about our family?" "You have no idea what you're talking about," Maya hissed, moving toward him. "You're a child. You don't understand adult relationships or what your father and I have been through." "I understand that you're cheating on him with his business partner," Ethan shot back. "I understand that you've been lying to all of us for months. Get out." Maya screamed suddenly, her composure shattering completely. "Get out of this kitchen. You have no right to judge me." Ethan stood his ground. "I'm telling Dad." "If you do that, you'll destroy this family," Maya said, her voice dropping to something cold and threatening. "Everything we've built, everything you have, the house, your college fund, your future, it all falls apart. Is that what you want? To ruin everything because you're playing detective?" "I'm not ruining anything." "You already did that," Ethan said quietly, then turned and walked away. That evening, when Robert came home from work, Maya was waiting. She'd had hours to prepare, to craft her narrative. She met him at the door with tears in her eyes. "Robert, we need to talk about Ethan," she said, her voice breaking convincingly. Over the next hour, she painted a picture of their son as troubled, as acting out, as making wild accusations because he was angry about the reasonable boundaries they'd set. She mentioned teenage rebellion, possible substance use, the influence of his new group of friends. She was careful, strategic, planting seeds of doubt, but Ethan had anticipated this. When his father came to his room later that night, Ethan didn't just tell him, he showed him. The screenshots he'd taken, the timestamps, the messages that left no room for interpretation. Robert's face went gray as he scrolled through the evidence. He looked at his son, then back at the phone, then toward the master bedroom where Maya waited. Without a word, he stood and walked down the hallway. The argument that followed shook the house. Maya's voice rose and fell, cycling through denial, justification, and finally, when cornered by the undeniable evidence, a vicious counterattack. She screamed that Ethan had betrayed her, that he'd poisoned his father against her, that a real son would never have done this to his mother. Robert's voice, when it cut through, was quiet and final. "Pack a bag. I want you out tonight." As Maya threw clothes into a suitcase, tears streaming down her face, she caught sight of Ethan in the hallway. Their eyes met, and in that moment, instead of remorse, her face twisted with rage. "I will never forgive you for this," she said. "Never." The door slammed behind her minutes later, leaving father and son standing in the wreckage of their family. 3 weeks passed in a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and tense silence. Robert had moved through the initial shock with a kind of mechanical efficiency that worried Ethan. His father went to work, came home, made dinner, and retreated to his office to handle the divorce proceedings. They rarely talked about it. Maya had moved into an upscale apartment downtown, funded by withdrawals from their joint accounts that Robert's attorney was already fighting. She called Ethan repeatedly, sometimes crying, sometimes angry, always wanting to talk. He stopped answering after the fifth message that blamed him for destroying their family. The custody discussion came to a head on a cold November morning in the office of a family mediator. Robert sat on one side of the polished conference table, his attorney beside him. Maya sat across from them, her lawyer a sharp-eyed woman in a designer suit whispering in her ear. "My client is willing to agree to joint custody," Robert's attorney began, "with a primary residence for the minor child remaining with Mr. Chun. Mrs. Chun would have Ethan every other weekend and alternating holidays." Maya's lawyer shook her head before she'd even finished. "That's unacceptable. Mrs. Chun has been the primary caregiver for 17 years. She deserves equal time." "Ethan is 17, Robert said, speaking for the first time. "In 6 months, he's 18. Maybe we should ask him what he wants." The mediator nodded. "That's actually an excellent point. At his age, the court will heavily weight his preference." Maya's face paled. She knew exactly what Ethan would say. "I'd like to speak with Robert privately," Maya said suddenly. "Just 5 minutes." They moved to a smaller conference room down the hall. As soon as the door closed, Maya's carefully maintained composure cracked. "Robert, please," she said, reaching for his hand. He pulled away. "I know I made a terrible mistake. I know I hurt you, hurt our family. But Ethan is my son, too. I can't lose him." "You should have thought about that before," Robert said coldly. "I'm begging you," Maya continued, tears flowing now. "Don't turn him against me completely. He's angry now, but with time, we can rebuild. If you push for full custody, if you make this a war, I'll have no choice but to fight back. And it will get ugly. Is that a threat?" "It's reality," Maya said, wiping her eyes. "I know things, Robert. About your business. About some of those deals you made with Derek. Do you really want all of that coming out in court?" Robert stared at her, seeing clearly for perhaps the first time who she really was. "You would do that? You would destroy my career, my reputation, to win a custody battle for a son who doesn't want to live with you?" The silence stretched between them. "Let's go back," Robert finally said. "I have a proposal." When they returned to the mediation room, Robert laid out new terms. Equal joint custody on paper, but with a critical caveat. Ethan could choose where he stayed night to night. No fixed schedule. Complete flexibility. Both parents would remain involved in major decisions about school, medical care, and finances. "Why would you offer this?" Maya's attorney asked suspiciously. "Because I'm trusting that my son is old enough to make his own choices," Robert said. "And I'm betting that his mother loves him enough to accept that, even if those choices hurt." Maya looked at Robert, then at her attorney, then down at her hands. After a long moment, she nodded. The papers were drawn up over the following week. They signed on a gray December morning, and the divorce was set in motion. Robert moved forward with quiet determination, already planning for the future. He enrolled in therapy, started going to the gym, began to rebuild himself. For Maya, the descent was faster. The reality of her situation crashed over her in waves. Derek, the man she'd risked everything for, had disappeared the moment the affair was exposed. He'd resigned from the company, moved to another state, and blocked her number. She'd lost her husband, the respect of her son, and the man she thought she loved, all in one devastating sweep. But there was a path forward, she told herself. Ethan was still her son. Time would heal these wounds. She would prove she could change, if only she could stick to that plan. 6 months had passed since the divorce papers were signed. Spring had arrived, bringing with it a tentative thaw in the frozen relationship between Maya and Ethan. They'd had coffee twice, awkward meetings where they talked about his college applications and carefully avoided everything else. It wasn't much, but it was progress. Robert had begun dating again, nothing serious. Just dinners with a colleague from work named Sarah. She was kind, steady, and made him laugh. Ethan approved, which somehow made it easier for Robert to move forward. Maya watched these developments from the outside, tracking them through Ethan's carefully neutral updates and the occasional social media post. Each sign of Robert's healing felt like a door closing on the life she'd known. Her apartment, once a symbol of independence, now felt like a prison of her own making. The loneliness was crushing. Her friends had chosen sides, and most had chosen Robert's. Her sister called, but kept conversations brief, disapproving of Maya's choices without saying so directly. The silence in her apartment at night was deafening. That's when Derek called. "I know I shouldn't be reaching out," he said, his voice familiar and warm through the phone. "But I've been thinking about you. About us." Maya's heart raced. "Derek, you blocked me. You disappeared. I panicked. I handled everything wrong," he said. "But I'm in Phoenix now. Got a new job. I'm settled. And I miss you, Maya. I miss what we had." 6 months had passed since the divorce papers were signed. Spring had arrived, bringing with it a tentative thaw in the frozen relationship between Maya and Ethan. They'd had coffee twice, awkward meetings where they talked about his college applications and carefully avoided everything else. It wasn't much, but it was progress. Robert had begun dating again. Nothing serious, just dinners with a colleague from work named Sarah. She was kind, steady, and made him laugh. Ethan approved, which somehow made it easier for Robert to move forward. Maya watched these developments from the outside, tracking them through Ethan's carefully neutral updates and the occasional social media post. Each sign of Robert's healing felt like a door closing on the life she'd known. Her apartment, once a symbol of independence, now felt like a prison of her own making. The loneliness was crushing. Her friends had chosen sides, and most had chosen Robert's. Her sister called, but kept conversations brief, disapproving of Maya's choices without saying so directly. The silence in her apartment at night was deafening. That's when Derek called. "I know I shouldn't be reaching out," he said, his voice familiar and warm through the phone. "But I've been thinking about you. About us." Maya's heart raced. "Derek, you blocked me. You disappeared. I panicked. I handled everything wrong," he said. "But I'm in Phoenix now. Got a new job. I'm settled. And I miss you, Maya. I miss what we had." They talked for 2 hours that night. He told her he'd made a mistake walking away, that what they had was real, that he wanted another chance. Maya, starved for affection and validation, let his words wash over her like a balm on a wound. "Come visit," he said, "just for a weekend. Let's see if we can figure this out." Maya knew it was a terrible idea. She knew she should be focusing on rebuilding her relationship with Ethan, on becoming someone worthy of her son's forgiveness. But the pull was too strong, the promise of not being alone too tempting. She booked a flight for the following weekend. The deception came naturally, practiced from months of lying. She told Ethan she was visiting an old college friend in Santa Fe. She posted carefully curated photos of desert landscapes and art galleries, all found on Google and stolen from travel blogs. To anyone watching, Maya-chan was on a soul-searching retreat, finding herself after a difficult divorce. The reality was different. She spent 3 days in Derek's sleek Phoenix condo, falling back into familiar patterns. They talked about starting fresh, about maybe her moving out there, about a future that conveniently glossed over the wreckage they'd left behind. "We could do it right this time," Derek said on Sunday morning as Maya packed her bag. No sneaking around. Everything honest. Maya nodded, wanting desperately to believe him. She returned to San Diego, feeling lighter than she had in months. Maybe this was her second chance. Maybe some good could come from all the pain. But she'd been careless. Ethan had grown suspicious when his mother mentioned specific restaurants in Santa Fe that his friend's mother, who actually lived there, had never heard of. He'd noticed the Phoenix airport code on a luggage tag Maya had forgotten to remove. And when he casually mentioned his mother's trip to his father, adding the detail about Santa Fe, Robert's face had hardened. Derek moved to Phoenix, Robert said quietly. Ethan felt sick. You don't think? Check her credit card, Robert said. You're still on the family account for emergencies. Check where she really was. The flight charges confirmed it. Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport. A rental car. Charges at restaurants in Scottsdale and Tempe. She'd lied again, and this time not just to Robert, but to Ethan, the son she was supposedly trying to rebuild trust with. Ethan confronted her over the phone, his voice shaking with anger and hurt. Santa Fe, Mom? Really? Maya's stomach dropped. Ethan, I can explain. You're seeing him again. After everything that happened. After everything you said about changing and wanting to rebuild our relationship. It's not like that, Maya protested, scrambling for words. Derek and I were just talking. We're trying to find closure. Closure? Ethan's laugh was bitter. You flew to another state to get closure? Do you think I'm stupid? Sweetheart, please. I chose to stay with Dad every night this month because I was trying to give you space to get better, Ethan said. I defended you to his girlfriend when she said you weren't really trying. I told Dad you deserved another chance. Maya was crying now. I am trying. This is so hard, Ethan. You have no idea how lonely. You're lonely because of your own choices. Ethan shouted. And you're making the same ones over and over again. I'm done, Mom. I'm done trying to help someone who won't help herself. He hung up. Maya called back 17 times. Each call went to voicemail. Robert sat in his attorney's office, Ethan beside him, as they reviewed the new custody petition. The words on the page were clinical, legal, but they represented a seismic shift. Full custody of the minor child, with supervised visitation for the mother pending evaluation. Are you absolutely sure about this? The attorney, Marcus asked, looking primarily at Ethan. The court will consider your wishes, but this is a significant step. It will likely feel like a betrayal to your mother. She betrayed herself, Ethan said quietly. I tried. I really tried to give her a chance. Marcus nodded and turned to Robert. The Phoenix trip gives us grounds, especially given that she lied to both of you about her whereabouts. But Maya will fight this. She argued that she's entitled to her private life, that the affair is old news, already factored into the divorce settlement. It's not about the affair anymore, Robert said. It's about a pattern of deception and poor judgment. It's about putting her relationship with the man who helped destroy our family above her relationship with her son. The judge will want to hear from Ethan directly, Marcus warned. Are you prepared for that? Ethan nodded, his jaw set with determination that made him look older than his 17 years. The petition was filed on a Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, Maya's attorney had called, furious. By Tuesday, Maya herself showed up at Robert's house, pounding on the door until he let her in. How could you? She screamed, pushing past him into the foyer. Filing for full custody? Trying to take my son away completely? I'm not taking him anywhere, Robert said calmly. He's choosing, just like we agreed. He's 17. He doesn't know what he wants. You're manipulating him against me. Ethan appeared at the top of the stairs. I'm right here, Mom, and I know exactly what I want. Maya looked up at her son, her face crumpling. Baby, please. Don't do this. I'm still your mother. Then act like it, Ethan said, his voice breaking. Act like I matter more than Derek does. You do. You're everything to me. Then why did you lie? Why did you sneak off to see him after promising you were going to focus on getting better, on rebuilding our relationship? Maya climbed the stairs toward him, reaching out. Because I'm human. Because I'm flawed and lonely, and I made a mistake. But I love you, Ethan. I have always loved you. Loving me isn't enough if you keep making choices that hurt me, Ethan said, stepping back from her reach. I can't trust you anymore, Mom. You say one thing and do another, every single time. The custody hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. In the interim, Maya threw herself into preparing her defense with manic energy. She enrolled in therapy and made sure the court knew about it. She joined a divorce support group. She created a paper trail of redemption, documenting every positive step. But she also made strategic mistakes, driven by desperation. She showed up unannounced at Ethan's school, trying to catch him between classes. The school had to ask her to leave. She sent him gifts, expensive ones, that felt more like bribes than genuine gestures of love. She called Robert at work repeatedly, oscillating between begging and threatening. You're turning him against me, she said during one particularly hostile call. I'll make sure the court knows that. Parental alienation is a real thing, Robert. So is parental responsibility, Robert replied, something you might want to look into. Her attorney tried to rein her in, but Maya was spiraling. The more she felt control slipping away, the more erratically she behaved. She hired a private investigator to follow Robert, hoping to find some dirt that could be used against him. The investigator found nothing. Robert was exactly who he appeared to be, a devoted father, trying to provide stability for his son. In a particularly low moment, Maya reached out to some of Ethan's friends on social media, trying to get them to talk to him on her behalf. The kids, uncomfortable with being put in the middle, told Ethan immediately. It was another violation, another example of her putting her needs above appropriate boundaries. The night before the hearing, Maya sat alone in her apartment, surrounded by legal documents and empty wine glasses. Her phone sat silent on the coffee table. No calls from Ethan, no messages of support, just the deafening quiet of consequences coming home to roost. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. How had she gotten here? How had a moment of weakness, a foolish affair, cascaded into losing everything she'd once held dear? But even in that moment of reflection, her phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Thinking of you. How are you holding up? And despite everything, despite knowing it was wrong, despite understanding that this connection was poison, she picked up the phone and called him. Some patterns, it seemed, were harder to break than others. The courtroom was smaller than Maya had expected, less dramatic than the legal dramas she'd watched on TV. Just a simple room with wooden benches, fluorescent lights, and a judge who looked tired before the proceedings even began. Judge Mary Ann Foster had been on the family court bench for 15 years. She'd seen every variation of custody disputes, every flavor of parental dysfunction. As she reviewed the case file before her, Chun v. Chun, she recognized the familiar contours of a family destroyed by infidelity and poor choices. This is a modification hearing regarding custody of the minor child, Ethan Chun, age 17, Judge Foster began. I've reviewed all submitted materials. Mr. Chun is seeking primary physical custody with supervised visitation for Ms. Chun. Ms. Chun is contesting this modification. Before I hear arguments, I'd like to speak with Ethan. Young man, would you approach? Ethan stood, his legs shaky, but his resolve firm. He'd practiced what he wanted to say, rehearsed it with his father's attorney, but now, facing the judge with his mother's eyes boring into his back, the words felt heavy. Ethan, I understand you're a few months from turning 18, Judge Foster said kindly. At that point, Custody becomes moot. Why is this hearing important to you? Ethan took a breath. Because it's not just about where I sleep at night. It's about accountability. My mother needs to understand that actions have consequences. She keeps saying she wants to change, but she keeps making the same choices. I love her, but I can't trust her. And I need her to understand that's on her, not on me. Can you elaborate on the trust issues? Ethan explained it all, the discovery of the affair, his mother's reaction, the rage directed at him for exposing the truth. He described the tentative reconciliation attempts, and then the Phoenix trip, the lies, the realization that his mother valued her relationship with Derek more than rebuilding with her son. She chose him over me. Again, Ethan said, his voice cracking. And when I called her on it, she made excuses. She's always making excuses. Judge Foster turned to Maya. Ms. Chun, I'm going to be direct with you. I'm troubled by the pattern described here. The affair itself, while painful, isn't the court's business. That's between you and your ex-husband. But lying to your son about your whereabouts, continuing a relationship with the affair partner after promising to focus on family healing, these choices show poor judgment. Maya stood, her attorney beside her. Your Honor, I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. But I'm in therapy now. I'm working on myself. The trip to Phoenix was a mistake in judgment, but it was also about finding closure with someone who was once important to me. I never meant to hurt Ethan. Intent isn't magic, Judge Foster said sharply. You don't get credit for not meaning to hurt people when your actions predictably cause harm. You're his mother. That requires a higher standard. I know that, Maya said, tears streaming. I'm trying. I'm really trying. Are you? Judge Foster pulled out a report. You've attended 3 therapy sessions in 6 weeks. You showed up unannounced at your son's school against his wishes. You've contacted his friends inappropriately. You hired a private investigator to follow your ex-husband. None of this suggests someone focused on healing. It suggests someone desperate to maintain control. Maya's attorney interjected. Your Honor, my client is struggling with a difficult divorce and the loss of her family structure. These actions, while perhaps misguided, come from a place of love and fear of losing her child. Or they come from a place of ego, the judge countered. Ms. Chun, I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I want you to think carefully before answering. If continuing your relationship with Derek, the man involved in the affair, meant losing a close relationship with your son, which would you choose? The courtroom went silent. Maya looked at her attorney, then at Robert, then tried to find Ethan's eyes. He wouldn't look at her. It's not that simple, Maya began. It absolutely is that simple, Judge Foster said. Your son is watching you right now, waiting to hear that he's more important than your romantic relationship with the man who helped destroy your marriage. Can you say that? Maya opened her mouth, then closed it. The seconds ticked by, each one damning. I thought so, Judge Foster said quietly. She made some notes on her papers, then looked up. Here's my ruling. Primary physical custody is awarded to Robert Chun. Maya Chun is granted unsupervised visitation, but Ethan Chun, given his age and maturity, is given full discretion over when and if those visits occur. Both parents will share legal custody for the remaining months until Ethan's 18th birthday. Your Honor, Maya's attorney started. I'm not finished, Judge Foster said. Ms. Chun, I'm also ordering you to complete a minimum of 6 months of consistent therapy with a licensed family therapist before any mandatory visitation resumes. If you want a relationship with your son, you need to do the work. Real work, not performative gestures. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down with a finality that reverberated through Maya's chest taut in the months that followed. The pieces of their fractured family settled into new configurations. Robert sold the family home, too many memories, and bought a comfortable townhouse closer to Ethan's school. Sarah, his girlfriend, became a fixture in their lives, careful to support without overstepping, understanding the delicate ecosystem of healing. Ethan threw himself into his senior year. He was accepted to UC Berkeley with a generous financial aid package. His college essay, written about navigating family dissolution while maintaining his moral compass, had apparently resonated with admissions officers. He was proud of it in a way that felt different from his other accomplishments. This one felt earned through fire. He saw his mother exactly 3 times in those months. Coffee meetings in neutral locations, conversations that were polite but distant. Maya tried in her way. She talked about her therapy, about insights she was having, about wanting to rebuild. But Ethan could see the cracks in her foundation. Her therapist changed twice. She mentioned Derek in passing, then caught herself, but the mention was enough. Some addictions ran deep. Derek himself proved to be less than Maya had imagined. The Phoenix romance fizzled after 6 months, when Maya discovered he was also seeing someone else apparently. His pattern of infidelity wasn't specific to his relationship with Robert. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Maya's sister, Jennifer, flew in from Boston one weekend to stage what she called a come-to-Jesus moment. She found Maya in her apartment, surrounded by takeout containers and wine bottles, scrolling through old family photos on her phone. "You're wasting your life," Jennifer said bluntly. "You made terrible choices. You hurt people who loved you. But you're still here, Maya. You still have time to become someone different. But you have to actually want it." "I do want it," Maya said. "Then prove it. Stop talking about therapy and actually do the work. Stop making excuses. Stop waiting for Ethan to absolve you. And for God's sake, block Derek's number." It was harsh truth, delivered with the only kind of love Maya had left. The unvarnished kind that doesn't coddle. Graduation day arrived in June, warm and bright. Ethan walked across the stage to receive his diploma, and both his parents were there. Robert sat with Sarah, beaming with pride. Maya sat alone, 3 rows back, clapping but separate from the celebration. At the reception afterward, Ethan found his mother near the refreshment table. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by the weight of her choices. "Congratulations," Maya said softly. "I'm so proud of you." "Thanks," Ethan replied. They stood in awkward silence for a moment. "I'm glad you came. Did you think I wouldn't?" "I wasn't sure," he admitted honestly. Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I know I've given you every reason not to trust me. I know I've failed you in ways that matter. But I want you to know," her voice broke, "I want you to know that losing you has been the worst consequence of all my mistakes. Worse than losing your father. Worse than losing my marriage. Worse than anything." "Then why didn't you choose differently?" Ethan asked, not cruelly, but with genuine confusion. "Why couldn't you just stop?" "I don't know," Maya said, and for the first time, she sounded truly honest. "I don't know, and that terrifies me." Ethan studied his mother's face, seeing the genuine anguish there. "I don't hate you," he said finally. "I want you to know that. I'm angry and disappointed, but I don't hate you. I hope you figure yourself out, Mom. I really do." He hugged her briefly, then walked away to join his friends. Maya watched him go, this young man she'd raised, who'd somehow become better than her in all the ways that mattered. Robert appeared beside her, keeping a respectful distance. "He's a good kid," he said. "He is," Maya agreed. "You did a good job with him." "We both did, for a long time," Robert said generously. "You were a good mother once, Maya. You could be again if you wanted it enough. Is that what Sarah thinks?" Maya asked, unable to help herself. Robert smiled sadly. "Sarah thinks you're a cautionary tale, but she also thinks everyone deserves the chance to write new chapters. The question is whether you're willing to put in the work to write something worth reading. He left her then, returning to his son, his girlfriend, his rebuilt life. Maya stood alone in the crowd of celebrating families, understanding finally and completely what she'd lost. That night, alone in her apartment, Maya made a decision. She called a new therapist, one specializing in behavioral patterns and addiction. She blocked Derek's number and deleted his contact information. She joined a support group for people rebuilding after divorce. She started the hard, unglamorous work of becoming someone different. Would it be enough? Would Ethan ever truly forgive her? Would she ever rebuild what she destroyed? The answers were uncertain. But for the first time since the affair was exposed, Maya was asking the right questions. Not, how can I get them back? But how can I become someone worthy of being let back in? Ethan left for Berkeley in August. His dorm room overlooked the bay, and he called his father from the window, describing the view. He sent his mother a text, made it safely. Room is great. Brief, but it was contact. It was something. Maya responded. So happy for you. Proud of the man you're becoming. Love, Mom. She meant it. Every word. The story could have ended differently, with reconciliation, with dramatic forgiveness, with neat resolution. But life rarely wraps up so cleanly. Instead, it ended with possibility, with the understanding that consequences are real, that patterns can be broken, but only through genuine effort, and that sometimes the people we hurt move forward while we're still standing in the wreckage we created. Robert built a new life, one rooted in honesty and partnership. Ethan grew into a young man who understood that love without trust is just a word. And Maya? Maya finally began the long journey of learning to live with herself and the choices she'd made. Some endings are happy. Some are tragic. This one was simply real, the messy, painful, occasionally hopeful reality of people trying to move forward after everything falls apart. Whether Maya would succeed in her transformation remained to be seen. But for the first time, she was genuinely trying. And sometimes that's where new stories begin.